Hey guys, we are back for another review, and if it looks like I've got a black eye this time around, that would be because the kiddo whacked me upside the head with a little Halloween toy, and I now have this lovely little shiner going on right here. But that's neither here nor there, just getting it out of the way before people ask in the comments. So we're going to take a look today at a figure that is coming in the upcoming Super 7 Filmation Masters of the Universe line that I have not done an actual review of. So I figured we would go ahead and try to get through those before my figures actually get here. And we're taking a look at a figure that I actually had in the vintage line as a kid, one that has nostalgic kind of leanings for me, and that would be TUNG LASHOR. There's no packaging to show this time around because, like I said before, I don't keep Motu Classics packaging, but we've got him here, and he came in that same standard Motu Classics packaging that we've seen time and time again. So let's put him on the table and take a look at this guy. Alright guys, we've got our TUNG LASHOR figure ready to go, and if you're not too familiar with this guy or why I wanted to take a look at him, it's because this particular version of TUNG LASHOR is heavily, and I mean very heavily, based on the 80s vintage toy, which could not look any more different from the Filmation cartoon counterpart if they tried. They might as well not even be the same character. So TUNG LASHOR is a Snake Man, but he's also a member of the Horde, so in this Classics version he has a Horde armband. And then, of course, he has the Snake Man logo. But if you look closely enough, this does not look anything like a Snake Man. He looks like a Frog Man. He looks more like a snake guy. He's more like a lizard guy in the cartoon, honestly. So there's a whole lot of weirdness going on. But I had the vintage figure of TUNG LASHOR. Honestly, I'm not really sure where he is right now. He's in a bin somewhere. But I have fond memories of him because I had a small handful of Motu figures as a kid, just because I kind of came in really late towards the end. So the ones that I had really stuck to me. And this guy just looks so wild. His colors are so striking. Everything is so vibrant and bright. So it's always been one that I've really been attached to. So let's take a look real quick at Articulation. You're not going to be surprised here because he's going to move basically exactly how you would expect for a Motu Classics figure. The head can swivel. He does have a little bob action up and down, but the head is so wide and it sits on the shoulders so high that really he doesn't do a great deal, but you can get him to like look forward and then look down a little bit. The arms go out. They rotate, of course, bicep swivel, single joint at the elbow, and then we do have wrist rotation. We've got a waist twist. You've got an ab crunch. He goes back. He doesn't really go too far forward. He kind of is supposed to stay at kind of this lurched pose almost, and then his legs will go all the way out. So you can get him to do the frogman splits if you want. Kick forward, kick back. He's got a thigh cut. We do have a single jointed knee, and then at the ankles they're hindered by the sculpt, just like the head is hindered because he has these weird splayed out feet. They really only hinge up and down a little bit, and this one's actually pretty stuck right now. So they hinge, but then they don't really rock at all. So if you want to like have him spread out a little bit, his feet are always going to be in this flat position, so they're going to be kind of wonky. So you just have to kind of play with how you actually want to pose him. But in general, he has all of the requisite Motu Classics articulation. He's just got a little bit of limitation just based on his sculpt in those two areas, the feet and the head. For me, though, what it comes down to with this figure is the look and the feel and these colors. I'll say it again, they are so vibrant. They're incredibly saturated, and I love this magenta purple look that he has. He's got this bright magenta fuchsia type skin with the purple stripes. And then, of course, you've got an orange chest, which, you know me, I like orange. Look at all that. And it's very striking against that green Snake Man logo, which is sculpted really nicely. He's got these crazy like tree frog hands that are gloved, of course, so they're black. We've got a black furry loincloth, and then we've got these crazy feet, so they definitely fit the character. Of course they do, like I said, hinder articulation, but they are sculpted really nicely. He's got a bunch of like warts all over him. He's also got a bunch of skin problems going on with his back. And then, of course, the head sculpt is incredibly well done here. I really like everything about this. That nice big fin, those humongous animated eyes that are on his head, and we've got the teeth sticking out of his closed mouth. But look at that. That's definitely a frogman if you've ever seen one in your life. There's no way he is just a normal snake man. He probably, got brought in because they needed to get someone other than a snake on the team. So they said, let's get this frog dude. We'll put a snake on his chest and we'll call him one of the Snake Men. But I really love him. You're not going to get me to say too much bad about this figure outside of the wonky feet. And that's just because they kind of look weird if you spread his legs too far. But everything about the look and the design of this character speaks to me, not only because I think it looks cool, but of course course, because it hits the nostalgia button for me, and when it comes to Motu Classics, that's a no-brainer. Now, as far as accessories goes, this guy is once again very much vintage styled outside of one thing, and that would be the Horde emblem that's on the armband. And I've already mentioned this, but he's got the armband that we see this a lot with Motu Classics. This is how he comes packaged as well, so it kind of shows his dual allegiance because he's a Snake Man, but he was also in the Horde, so he gets an armband. And then, of course, in keeping with the vintage style, he gets the vintage styled weapons that his figure had. So we have the requisite Snake Man staff, and it's the same one that all the other figures have. It's kind of a off black almost, if that makes sense. It's got some blue, some gray in it, and then it's got some pearlescent paint up on the eyes and the teeth. And he holds it kind of weird. You just got to kind of get it positioned correctly, and he'll kind of stand there with it. It's just due to his weird tree frog hands. And then another thing that he has that's finished style is the Dragonfly crossbow. So Snake Man staff, Horde crossbow. Of course, this is very unique. So it looks like a dragonfly's body, and then the arms of the crossbow are the wings, and then of course they attach to the back, and you can see an arrow on the back of the dragonfly. And then he's got a clip, so you can just pop it onto his arm right there, and he is just ready to rock and roll at this point. He is ready to throw down, but he still has another accessory that plays up yet again another vintage toy feature. And that extra accessory would be this second head. So the vintage figure had an action feature. He had a dial on his back, and you would spin it, and the tongue would come out of Tongue Lasher's mouth. Hence the name. But instead of having an action feature, because, you know, this is Motu Classics, we get a second head. He's got a nice snarled expression on his face. His mouth is obviously open. The eyes are a little more shut as well, so he's kind of squinting when he does this. And then he's got this humongous tongue that comes out of his mouth that goes from a dark green to a yellow. And then keeping with some of the, well, it's almost 2000X-ish in terms of the design of the tongue. He's got these teeth that come out of the tongue as well, and that was a 2000X thing. It's definitely not something that the vintage figure had. And of course, the cartoon version didn't look like this, although he did often flick his tongue out of his mouth quite a bit, so that was definitely a thing for him. But I absolutely love this second head. I don't often display him with it, just because it's very situation specific for me. I usually just have him with the crossbow, but I think it's exceptionally well done. It's very, very nice to have. And of course, since we didn't get action features, I'm glad they did this, just like they did with pretty much every other figure, to try to emulate it as best as possible. And this, of course, does just that. So I would imagine it's pretty obvious that I really do like this figure. I think it's pretty well done. Colors are great, sculpt is great. Everything about him is just weird and wacky. It's one of those oddball Motu figures that doesn't look anything like his cartoon counterpoint. Honestly, I think this thing looks so much cooler than the cartoon version by a mile. He comes with all the right accessories. He comes with the extra head. There's really nothing wrong with this figure as far as I'm concerned. And it may be the nostalgia talking, but even though he is not one of my quote-unquote top 10 figures like I did previously in another video, he's definitely up there in terms of Motu Classics favorites for me. It's just a fun, cool figure, and I am glad to have him among my collection. So that's going to do it for this look at the Motu Classics Tongue Lasher figure from Mattel. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.